So we're moving on to a single location. We're specifically talking about our GFCI outlets. Now, GFCIs, just to give you guys a quick rundown, as I'm installing this, GFCIs are a ground fault circuit interrupter. Now, the important thing about a GFCI to understand is that they are constantly monitoring the flow of electricity through the device. Now, on a GFCI, you're going to have a couple of different spots. You can't really see it in the video. Maybe we'll get a picture on a different training video or something like that. You have your line. That's where your power is going into the GFCI. You have your load. That's your power going out of the GFCI. Inside this device is a small, relatively small circuit board. And what that circuit board is doing is it's constantly monitoring the flow of electricity from the input through to the output, and also is monitoring the discrepancies between the hot and the neutral wire. So the important thing to remember is that it is always monitoring. Now, most of these GFCIs nowadays, they are self-testing. So they will do a little test method, if you will, to be able to make sure that the GFCI is functioning properly. That's why some of these will just randomly fail without warning, because they're doing their own testing to make sure that they are going to respond in the event of a ground fault trip. You have your test and reset buttons here on the first. The only proper way to truly test the functionality of a GFCI is using the test and reset buttons. You can use your little plug-in testers, but that's not truly mimicking a true ground fault to be able to do the test. It's a quick way to say, oh, this is functioning properly, but it's not a true test. It kind of goes down to the construct of things and stuff like that. It's a little funny, but for our scenario here, this is how I specifically like to install my GFCI outlets. First and foremost, we're still dealing with our extra deep backsplash, 1.5 inch deep backsplash with our 1.5 sleeves. Now, that does mean that our standard screws, they aren't long enough. So we're gonna go ahead and pull those guys out before we get too far ahead of ourselves. This one has a little, this particular model has a grounding kind of tab on it. Helps make sure that the outlet is bonded to the box appropriately. But that being said, we have our ground here on the bottom. We have our line in, our load out, hot and neutral on either side there. General construct of our standard Leviton GFCI. So, set that down for a second. Let's talk about the wiring here. Now, as I pull out our wires here, we can see that we have our neutral, we have our hot, and once again, we have our neutral, and then in the back of the box, we have our ground. Now, our ground is currently hooked. We do not need that hooked. So I'm gonna unhook our ground here. So just kind of pull on that a little bit, get in here with this. Unhook. So straighten that up. Now, before we get too carried away, it's always a good idea to take your handy dandy non-contact tester and verify that power is indeed off to everything. Obviously, your ground is not going to carry current. If it is, that's a bigger problem. But I already know that the breaker is off. So I kind of chant, check and verify. Is it redundant? Absolutely. That's the point. Because we want to check that power is off. And then we want to verify with some sort of test tool. Non-contact's an easy tool to use to verify that power is off. If you can't use a non-contact test tool or you're questioning it, break out a multimeter. Check, make sure there's no current flow, no power flow. Last thing we want to do is get shocked because we rushed. Every time that I have sparked a tool, tripped a breaker, gotten shocked, it's been because I was rushing. So, nothing's life or death until it's life or death, and let's not get it to the point where it's life or death. So, best way to do that is check and verify that power is indeed off. So, we've done our check and verify. We've been able to confirm that power is indeed off. I'll set that off to the side right now. At this point, we can go ahead and take all of our little wire caps off to expose what we're working with. Now that everything is exposed, because it's easier to work with this sleeve in place already, I'm going to go ahead and slip that over all of our wires. See if we can get it over one-handed. Yay, did it. All right. Now, the other thing that I want to point out here, this is something I do on my installs just to make it simpler for us to make sure that we don't mix up our neutrals and our power wires. Line is specific to the GFCI. Load is specific to the GFCI. If you mix up line and load, the GFCI will not function properly. It will not pass power through. And then you're wondering why all of a sudden I replace this outlet. Is it everything not working? You have to make sure to verify that line and load is correct. Line is sometimes on top. Sometimes load is on top. Sometimes it's side to side. Side to side is usually older GFCIs. But here's the thing. If you swap this out like for like, position for position, between different brands, you may be mixing up your line and load. So you have to verify and double check what is the old one labeled versus what is the new one labeled. See it all the time. So just verify that what your labels say, not the positions. So what I do is a little handy dandy trick to be able to make it easier to verify in the future. I don't know if you guys can see this. On my neutral wire, I put a little black swipe. It's still obviously a neutral wire, but it's got a little black swipe with a Sharpie. The reason I do that is because that tells me this is my line neutral. So when I come into this box and I replace this GFCI, or in this case where we did a kitchen remodel, this is an existing outlet location. This is where the GFCI was. When I pulled out the old GFCI, I marked which neutral was our line neutral. Now I'm coming to here and I don't have to guess which ones are line, which ones are load. I know for a fact that this neutral is paired with my power in wire. So now I can kind of separate these out. I know that it's, as we look at the sheath, okay, there's my two wires that are my load wires. Here are my two wires that are my line wires. So now I can orient this knowing that for this outlet, our line is on top.
Hey guys, it's V with the Electrician Training Ground. I just want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. We are building a community on the Skool platform specifically for learning about the electrical trade and about electrical safety. So we're looking for experienced individuals, we're looking for apprentices, we're looking for anybody that is interested in learning more about electrical to join this community. It's a free community to be able to join and be able to participate in the discussion. We're looking for people who want to be able to take some of the courses that we're going to be offering, as well as being able to work with us one-on-one. I'm working on creating a community of individuals that want to support each other in a positive and uplifting manner. And the Skool community is the best way for you to be able to plug in and be able to participate in a greater depth than what we can here on YouTube. So in the description of this video, you're going to see a link to be able to join the Skool community. It's free to be able to join the Skool community. It doesn't cost you anything. I just want to reiterate that. Being a part of discussion does not cost anything. But if you want to dive deeper into learning more about the basics of electrical, about more specifics, about what your future employer may be looking for, I encourage you to join some of our courses that we have on there. Thank you and God bless. I look forward to seeing you guys here again soon.
Now, sometimes these guys, the screws are driven in, sometimes they're all the way out. I always like to bring mine all the way to the far out position to be able to then just make sure I have enough gap to be able to get the wires landed appropriately. So, it's like a shaker. So, we'll get in here, nice close up personal. So our load wires are sticking out furthest right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and land those guys just because, well, they seem to want to be priority. So we'll just snug that one up right there. Always good idea to do a tug test on your wires. Does it take a second longer? Yes, it takes a little bit more time to do your tug test, but it makes sure that as you snug things up that you actually got the wire appropriately in that sandwich plate, that it's not just bound up and not tightening appropriately. I've seen it too many times on breakers themselves where somebody cranked down on the breaker, but the wire wasn't in the position where it needed to be and it was a loose connection. I get a call, years down the road, it's like, oh, the system's not working right. Well, I wonder why, because your guy that installed it originally, he didn't install it correctly. So, tug test helps prevent callbacks. Just saying. So, same thing. Here we are snugging that up nicely, like that. Tug test. And then check this one here as well. Now, the cool thing about GFCIs is that if you didn't need to line and load protect, the sandwich plates do accept more than one wire, 2 wires, only 2 wires, can't do 3. So they are designed to accept 2 wires. So you can bring power in, power out without GFCI protection. That's helpful if you're connecting multiple bathrooms together, but you want to put GFCIs in each bathroom. You don't want redundant GFCI protection. And it just gets annoying where it's a common habit to put one GFCI for all the bathroom outlets in this nice large home, and then you trip the GFCI in your master bathroom, but you have to go all the way down to the basement bathroom to reset the GFCI. That's just annoying. Let's stop doing that, people. Please. Yes, the GFCIs are more expensive. When it comes down to a builder wanting to maximize profitability, you put minimal GFCIs. But my personal opinion is we design for the customer, not for profitability. That being said, we're still going to charge for the extra GFCIs, but it is better for years down the road of the person living in the house, the person not be saying bad things about your name because every time they trip the GFCI in the master bathroom, they're not having to run to the basement to reset it. That's my personal opinion on the matter. So, same thing, we got to land our ground wire here. Tighten this guy up. Got to get low. Being an electrician is all about being able to twist and maneuver your body in weird ways. So, be prepared for that. So, tug test. Now, obviously, everything's sticking out right now. Thankfully, we went ahead and got the sleeve in place. And you can see it's a pretty snug fit when you have a GFCI on this sleeve. Thankfully, it is appropriately sized, but it's a little bit snug. And so it fits inside of the existing electrical box. Now, you can also see, because it's a snug fit, you want to try and put the sleeves in place before you install the devices. Is it possible to install it after the fact? Yes, maybe I'll show that. But it's a bit of a pain. So we're going to try and train these wires to go in. So we got a couple of those already pre-trained. We got this one training. And then we're going to give it a little push to be able to go in, get that lined up. And then get this lined up like so. A little bit low. And got that lined up like so. Now they did a really good job of cutting almost exact for these outlet boxes, but that does mean that our bearing locations are just enough. So that's one of those situations there that's I appreciate that they did an accurate job for this, because many times our backsplash countertop guys, they don't line up our boxes, and we're having to chisel or chip away or shave some of these things to fit something like a GFCI, especially when it's a tile backsplash. The tile guys just kind of overlap our boxes. So thankfully, with this being a solid surface backsplash, I am very, very pleased with this company that did an accurate job measuring exactly where everything needed to go. So kudos to them. Now, obviously, standard screws, too short. We have our lovely 3-inch screws, excessive, but appropriate. Could I trim them? Yes, maybe I'll show you guys how to trim them. But in this scenario, I don't really need to trim them per se, because I can just drive in the extra length. So same thing with this guy. We're gonna line that in there, line it up all the way into the very box, the very back of the box, back to the box. Now obviously we have, at least an inch there. I don't want to hand tighten that wrister after a while. Grab our surge here, Sergio, and we'll go ahead and drive that in until it is snug, not tight, snug. And we don't want to blast it to be able to over tighten it. So same thing. Hello. Sometimes the tips fall out and then you throw it. All right, there we go. And then we follow up with our hand screwdriver to do the final tighten here. So I'm going to kind of level this up, line it up, and we'll tighten it up, snug it up with the final little bit here. Little wiggle test it, wiggle with it. Looks nice and level. Sleeve is in there. It's appropriately spaced. Our cover plate will do a good job finishing that. All right,